We are now at that time of year. It's time to start talking about the best and worst games of 2024. This year has been a really bad year for gaming, like the industry, but in terms of the actual games, I feel like we've had a decent year. Feels rather light in comparison to like last year, which was banger after banger after banger, but still pretty strong all things considered. There were some stinkers and or letdowns that I have to talk about. Now this is the 4th time I've done this list, but I still feel like I have to make this clear. This isn't just a list of the worst games of 2024 or just the most disappointing games of the year. It's a mix of the two. There are a lot of games that I don't want to call bad. In fact, it's almost half the list. Like, there weren't too many games that I played this year that I thought were downright bad. A lot of these games did disappoint me. In fact, I got some hot takes in this video. You might not like it. You might not be ready for it, but I'm going to say it, and you will hear it. Also, it's my opinion. These are specifically games I played this year, and I thought were either bad or not as good as they should have been. Or both. Anyways, let's get into this. Hi guys, DPX here, counting down the top 10 worst/most disappointing games of 2024. Now before we get started, you know what to do. You should like this video, subscribe if you're new, hit the bell, leave a comment, and I won't disappoint you.
I wanted to give to you, in the last part of your notes here, the significance spiritually of the number 10 in the Bible.
Earlier this year, Dragon's Dogma 2 released, and I was really excited for it. And I even reviewed the game, and despite mentioning some major issues, I ended up giving it a really good score. And this, my friends, is why we use the phrase, drinking the Kool-Aid. Now yes, Dragon's Dogma 2 is a good game. This game's placement on this list speaks more to how few stinkers I really played this year, but there are a lot of issues with the game that I really downplayed in my review. Sure, Dragon's Dogma 2 looks amazing, the world is huge, and the combat feels satisfying, but the combat's also a little generic. There's nothing really that cool about it, you know? It kind of feels like bunch of other action RPGs that I've played in the past. Additionally, the customization for your character is cool and all, but you also get to customize your pawn, and that's where I feel like it gets a little underwhelming. Not to mention, there's a little too much bullshit in this game. Resting overnight can be a nice way to replenish your health, but getting fucking ambushed by enemies was just so annoying. Like, I get this game is supposed to be unforgiving, and it's supposed to be hard, and you can call it a skill issue, but at certain points I just wanted to continue with the game and do my objective, but I fucking couldn't because these assholes wouldn't leave me alone. On top of all that, there were a bunch of bugs and glitches, and the game really did not perform well on a technical level, and although you can do a whole lot worse, Dragon's Dogma 2 should be so much better. One game I can totally see people calling a hidden gem of the year is Penny's Big Breakaway. Developed by the same devs as Sonic Mania, people really fell in love with this game, but as for me, I've never been so upset to have a game on this list, but Penny's Big Breakaway just did not do it for me. I am really rooting for this studio, and at its core, I like what they made, but a lot of the platforming and camera angles made the game more frustrating. In fact, I really did not have fun with this game. My experience with Penny's Big Breakaway was one of frustration and apathy. You can say bad platforming might just be a skill issue, and there might be some truth to that, but there were too many bugs and glitches in this game that made playing the game just more difficult and therefore worse. Stuff like falling through a platform and dying when that wasn't supposed to happen, or missing a jump, which, don't get me wrong, is a skill issue, but then respawning in the air, making me die again. It's not higher, because if the game just did not have these technical issues, my opinion might actually be very different. And I heard that they patched these technical issues, but still, it really ruined the game for me. Nintendo is currently in the process of suing Pocket Pair for Palworld, and at first, you'd think it's over the creature designs because of how suspiciously similar they are, but then you find out it's patent infringement, and you realize Nintendo is being Nintendo about this. And before I say anything else, I just want to clarify that I am rooting for Pocket Pair to win this case. You know, Nintendo is going after the little guy, and in this case, it does not seem justified. Alright, now that I got that out of the way, Palworld is the most overrated game of the year. I admire the idea, Pokemon with guns, of course this is going to be a hit. And hey, I haven't played the most recent Pokemon games, but I'll just believe the crowd and say that Palworld is the best Pokemon game in a very long time. But the thing is, it's not Pokemon with guns. Palworld is Ark with Pokemon, and overall, it's just boring. I guess normally, Palworld wouldn't be on a list like this, because I don't have a whole lot to say about it, but for how popular it is, and how it might be on some of your guys' best of the year list, I don't know if we played the same game. To me, Palworld is rather soulless, at times buggy, and really just a nothing burger of a game with an enticing premise, but it's just not fun. If you love it, I'm beyond happy for you, but for me, Palworld is boring.
36.
Very close, but that's not it. Let's go to Gary the Retard. What number between 2 and 4?
7.
Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice was a hidden gem when it came out back in 2017. It was praised for its visuals, storytelling, and combat, and I was beyond excited for the long-awaited sequel, Senua's Saga: Hellblade 2. And upon playing the game, I felt two different emotions. One was confusion, and the other was disappointment. And the confusion, which led to the disappointment, comes from what we actually got. I knew going in that Hellblade 2 was gonna be much shorter than Hellblade 1, but it's all about what you do with that time. What Hellblade 2 does with its roughly 5 hours of playtime was dull combat, admittedly interesting storytelling, but also a bunch of boring point A to point B gameplay, as I like to call it, where you just hold up on the control stick, and puzzles that felt like they were meant to pad out the runtime of an already really short game. I will admit, Hellblade 2 might genuinely be the best looking game available right now, and it's got some possibly award-winning sound design. In fact, this is recorded the day after the Game Awards, and I believe it did win Best Sound Design. So yeah, well deserved. But unfortunately, the rest of Senua's Saga: Hellblade 2 just isn't much of anything, really.
Okay, Mrs. Puff, what's my final score?
6.
Back in 2022, I was shocked, especially in hindsight, that Multiverses ended up placing very high on my best of the year list. I had a lot of fun with it, but the crazy thing is, and I feel like we constantly forget this, but that was just a beta. So naturally this year, when it's full release, released, I was excited because obviously the full release should be better than the beta, right?
No.
Sure, Multiverses in 2024 has a lot going for it. I still really like the gameplay, even though they did change it up a bit, but it didn't bother me too much. It got a nice looking facelift, and you won't see too many other rosters like this. Like, this is an insane roster in terms of variety of characters. But Multiverses in 2024 somehow manages to be more lacking, but also more predatory and grindy than its beta. If you want to unlock the characters without spending money, you have to grind and grind and grind. And they make it tedious on purpose, so you give them money. That is the system. But on top of that, there are just a lot of bad quality of life changes. Playing local multiplayer is way more limited than it was before. The Rifts, on paper, is a cool new story mode, sorta, but even this is limited and gets grindy, and overall, Multiverses in 2024 feels more like a beta than the actual beta did. I heard a lot of these issues got patched with updates, but I think it might just be too little too late, which hurts for me to say, because I really loved this game in its beta.
Oh, chills. Literal chills.
It was number 5. Number 5 killed my brother.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
So one day, Square Enix had a meeting and said, hey, Splatoon? On the one hand, it is rather unfortunate that Foam Stars was never really able to escape the notion that it was a Splatoon clone, but it still could have been fun. However, it feels like Foam Stars tried so hard to do what Splatoon did, it missed what made it good. This game is soulless. It's a cheap live service attempt that misses the point of why people play live service games. Not to mention, it does replace Ink from Splatoon with Foam, because it's Foam Stars, but in practice, the foam becomes obstructing and makes it a little harder to play on the map. It's a wonder that Square Enix made Foam Stars free to play not even a year after launch, and will be ending support soon. Surprised they're leaving the servers up. I remember when Funko Fusion was coming out, most people didn't even bat an eye, and when they did, they all thought it looked like a soulless shovelware cash grab. I, on the other hand, had faith. The concept of taking all these franchises and crossing them over into a big game was exciting, and I was confident that Funko Fusion was going to be one of 2024's biggest surprises. I'm sorry, I should have listened to all of you. Funko Fusion, despite the warning signs beforehand, hurts that it's this bad. Your opinions on Funko Pops aside, I know they're not everyone's cup of tea, but the idea of crossing over numerous movie franchises is an enticing one. But certain franchises like Jurassic World, Scott Pilgrim, Masters of the Universe, The Thing, Battlestar Galactica, and Hot Fuzz get entire fleshed out worlds, and I put fleshed out in quotation marks, while other franchises that I was really excited to play, like Jaws, Back to the Future, Chucky, and Invincible, get one level that you unlock by a hidden collectible throughout every single level of the game. So the game fails at being a proper and solid crossover. But as you're playing the game, it controls poorly. Every single character across all levels control the same. And I mean that. There's no reason for He-Man in the Masters of the Universe levels to play exactly the same as Scott Pilgrim. What is that? On top of that, none of the characters have any weight to their movement, the aiming sucks, and good lord, those boss fights. Not to mention, the game is very soulless. The music is the most generic sounding music possible. None of the characters really emote during the cutscenes, the audio cuts out, and overall, Funko Fusion is a game that really pissed me off. Even the ones higher up, Funko Fusion pissed me off more because I saw something in it that nobody else saw. But all those people were right, and I was wrong. Imagine a game in development for 11 years, capitalizing on the well-received naval combat from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. But basically, everything goes wrong with development, and the only reason it's not cancelled is because Ubisoft signed an agreement with the government of Singapore, where they have to release the game no matter what. No, that is not a joke. This game is called Skull and Bones, and eventually the game actually releases this year, and Ubisoft has the nerve to say that it's the first ever quadruple A game. Yeah, what you're seeing here is apparently the world's first ever quadruple A game. All this game is a section of gameplay from Assassin's Creed Black Flag. This took them 11 years, and it's a quadruple A game. I'm not kidding. This is pretty much all there is to Skull and Bones. There are other moments in between where, like, you do control a character and you run around a hub world, but that's really to get from one objective to another, which is just more naval combat. While many bad games release unfinished or release as something nobody wanted, you can just tell Skull and Bones is a game that, had it not been for fucking Singapore, this game probably would have never seen the light of day. This is embarrassing. 11 years for this, and I wouldn't be so mad at this game because I really wasn't expecting much, and I didn't blow $70 on it right away. I got it on sale for like $5, but after the insanely troubled development and all the warning signs, the fact that Ubisoft really tried to sell this as a quadruple A game is an insult to our intelligence. An absolute ripoff for $70. Skull and Bones should have never been released. Thanks, Singapore.
What kind of pencil do we take again?
Number 2. Take a number 2.
Looks like you took a big number 2.
Mentioned briefly during the last entry that many games release as something nobody wanted. What do I mean by that? Well, case in point, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. This game is just sad. While it's not quite what I wanted them to do after the Arkham games, Rocksteady developing a Suicide Squad game had a lot of potential, which is why it's so sad and baffling to see them develop a half-assed, generic, dead-on-arrival, live-service Suicide Squad game for 7 years. In many ways, this is the gaming industry at its worst. Trying to chase a live service bag that's not even much of a bag anymore, not understanding why people keep coming back to certain games, taking a developer that is best known for making like the opposite type of games, and it's also low on content. And it's $70 at launch. And it's $5 now, which is how I got it. The campaign is very short, with insultingly terrible moments. I know this game is called Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, so if you were expecting anything else, I don't know what you were expecting. But you are playing with fire by having this game in the same universe as the Arkham games. And when it actually comes to playing the characters, they all feel the same. Harley Quinn, Deadshot, Captain Boomerang, and King Shark are all really cool characters in the comics, and you can develop really cool movesets around them that could all be unique from each other. But I'm not joking, with maybe the exception of like one thing, they all control the same. I really hope Rocksteady survives this disaster, because going out like this is a fate worse than death.
I'm a Luigi, number one.
Now, what is the worst game of 2024? It's Concord. For everything that game represents, which is pretty much everything wrong with the gaming industry, and how monumental of a flop it was, Concord is the correct answer for the worst game of the year. But I did not play it. And neither did any of you. But I really don't want to include games on this list that I didn't play. But Concord got me thinking. It flopped so bad because it's a perfect example of everything wrong with the gaming industry right now. And I figured it out. Ladies and gentlemen, the worst game of 2024 is not Concord, Suicide Squad, or Skull and Bones, or any game like that. It's not any game that you'll see at the top of anybody's list. In fact, it's not even a game. It's the gaming industry itself. First off, through last year, 2023, that year was really bad with record layoffs throughout the entire year. But by February of 2024, there were more layoffs than the entirety of 2023. Think about that. Plus, many studio closures happened too. Arcane Austin shut down, Ubisoft Montpellier disbanded, Alka Games, the developer of Visions of Mana, was shut down before the game came out. And sure, Krafton came in clutch and saved Tango Gameworks, but the fact that Microsoft was gonna shut them down in the first place is already bad enough. So many layoffs and studio closures, how can it get worse? Well, you have companies like Ubisoft, who I don't think will exist in their current form by the end of the generation. Or companies like Xbox, kind of giving up in the console war, leaving Sony to re-enter their arrogant phase as they remaster games that don't need it for $70, and then they price the PS5 Pro, a very unnecessary upgrade might I add, at $700. Then you have other games releasing unfinished, over budget, and underperforming. If the rumors are true, there is no world where you can justify Concord costing $400 million and deeming it the future of PlayStation. Are you out of your mind? It's not just bad games that are underperforming though. Some of this year's finest games sold below expectations. Possibly my game of the year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, drastically underperformed. Possibly my other game of the year, Astrobot, seemed to have underperformed at first, but I think it caught some momentum. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, another great game, underperformed. Dragon Age: The Veilguard, which I thought was decent, also underperformed, apparently. There are conflicting reports with that one. Something has to give. I don't know what it's gonna be, but something has to happen. Maybe Concord's unforeseen failure could be the kick in the pants that the AAA studios need, but somehow I doubt it. And I am recording this the day after the Game Awards, which seemed to give me some hope. But if things don't continue to get better and they only continue to get worse, there is a very good chance we will be back here this time next year. But for now, even though it's not a game, the video game industry, without question, is the worst / most disappointing game of 2024. So that was this list. What do you guys think? I'm definitely gonna have some people disagreeing with a lot of the games on here. And maybe you disagree with the fact that I didn't put a game at number 1, but like, how bad of a year for the industry this year was, like, I don't think there was any question for what was going at number 1. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about this list, and what games you would put in your worst of the year. Let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to subscribe, and I won't disappoint you. Bye!